Hi everybody, welcome to today's stream. I'm Chili from Random Side Quest. Super happy that everybody is showing up. Already have some people in the chat here. Thanks so much. But yeah, let's get started. We haven't done one of these in a while. We've had a number of new subs come into the channel since then, so I just want to say welcome to all of our new subscribers and new community members. And also, as always, thanks for sticking around with us and just being part of our lore community. Seems to people, hello, Blue, Mia, River, Crazy. Good to see everybody in here. But yeah, I'm really here to just talk a lot about the lore. We got some new stuff since we spoke last. We got like a new kind of game within the game that potentially we can speculate on called Strike, which is going to be pretty interesting. I'm a big Gwent person. For me, Witcher 3 became Witcher the Wild Gwent, so I'm totally down for that. But yeah, I'm here to answer some lore questions, to kind of get into some lore discussion. So we got the chat going up here, so fire away. But yeah, it looks like we got Sweet, Allie. Oh my goodness, a lot of people in here. Cameron, thank you so much. But yeah, let's get into it. There's lots of cool stuff to dive into as far as Forbidden West goes. So I'm here to answer your questions. So let's see what we got here in the chat. Just kind of speculate. I know that I want to be optimistic about Strike. I think it will be pretty awesome. I'm pretty stoked on the fact that they have some kind of in-game pieces that you can get with the Regalia Edition. I did not get the Regalia Edition. I wanted to, but overall, this is very much something that we don't know a lot about yet. But I'm kind of speculating, just kind of according to the pieces that they've put out so far, that we're probably going to get something along the lines of like some kind of chess variant opposed to a card game like we saw with Gwent earlier. As far as other kind of exciting things going on at the channel, myself, my wife, most likely, we're going to be at the Denver Fan Expo this year doing a panel on Horizon Forbidden West. And if you're in the Denver area, and if you're going, come and stop by and see us. But along with that, I'm hopefully going to be streaming it live depending on how good the internet is there. Looks like we got the first questions coming through. Sorry, there's a bit of a latency on the stream. Do you think the Shield Weaver armor will be in Forbidden West? That's a good question. It's always kind of a game mechanic thing of what you're going to be able to carry over from the last game into the new game. So, man, that's kind of hard to tell. I think we might start off with it, and then it probably won't be nearly as good, especially the first iteration, probably even worse than the kind of nerfed iteration that we have right now. But I could see that happening as long as there are, better things to upgrade from. Are you going to react to tomorrow's Horizon Forbidden West gameplay? I will definitely be reporting on it, but in my time zone, it's going to be around 5 a.m. So the reaction, I don't think would be very good. It'd just be like, oh man, that's really cool. Oh, I'm just going to drink some more coffee. But I'm definitely going to watch after the fact and see what they have to offer and see if we get any new tidbits. Are there Hephaestus machines that haven't been discovered? Yeah, absolutely. Well, technically, I know what you're saying. Like, all machines are kind of Hephaestus machines, but that were kind of designed post-Gaia Hephaestus machines. I'm sure there are, because if Epsilon, Cauldron, and Firebreak told us anything, is that Hephaestus is very busy generating the new form of hunter-killers. So I definitely see them being more prevalent in the Forbidden West. I mean, Claw Striders are just already a great example of something that we didn't have in Zero Dawn. How many machines do you think there will be in the new game? I don't know. I know there was a quote from a while back that said there will be dozens of new machines, which is pretty crazy to think about. And I think that would be, I'd be over the moon for that. But if you're going by the comics, they're kind of doing this thing where they're talking about like these like dark armored machines. So that could be relating to different variants of the same machine that are harder to deal with. So that could happen in Forbidden West. I would not be surprised. Any ideas for the Tanakh religion? That's interesting, because a lot of the tribes in Horizon are spiritually based. Oseram, not so much. They definitely do have a view of kind of what happened before and their kind of myth of origin. But there's a precedent out there that says they might not be the most spiritual people. They're definitely warring and amongst each other and different tribes. So I would definitely maybe some kind of warrior culture along the lines of like Vikings and Valhalla. I could totally see something like that, which I think would be really cool. Could Rost come back as a cyborg? I don't think that would happen. The nature of his death, along with the fact that we just don't really see that many organic machines or kind of like hybrid cybernetics in the game. I think the closest you could get is the myth of the Banuk with Banu Kai, where she kind of became interwoven and kind of controlled machines that way. So that's very lore heavy, though, so I'm not sure that would happen, as much as I would love to see Rost back. Do you think Horizon Forbidden West will give you the option to visit HZD's map? Example, ending of the first game. I think to a certain degree, perhaps. I would not be surprised if the farthest edge of the map to the east would be Sunfall, because that's technically lore-wise where the Forbidden West begins, which is beyond the Fortress of Sunfall in Bryce Canyon, Utah. So I could totally see that area maybe even expanded a little bit more, but the only game that I've really seen that in is Red Dead Redemption 2, and even though it was there wasn't a lot in there. So if it is there, I would like to see a lot of playable and some objective-based stuff to do there, opposed to just kind of visiting. By the sun, have an awesome weekend, everyone. Thank you, Divergent. That's what we're here for. You did a great job at Denver Comic Con a few years back. Thank you, Santos. That was a lot of fun. I'm very happy to be able to go to cons again. Hopefully things keep going in the right direction, and we'll be able to put on a good panel, kind of covering all the speculation we have over Forbidden West. It's going to be a very Forbidden West heavy panel, obviously. Where do you think we're going to start in Horizon Forbidden West? Like I talked about a little bit before, I would not be surprised if Sunfall was kind of our starting off point, because the Shadow Carja are kind of in shambles at the end of the first game. So I could totally see after 6 months, the new game picks up with the Carja kind of reuniting and kind of burying the hatchet at Sunfall, which bears a lot of significance to the Carja in Shadow. Oh, look, Undead Kirsty's in the channel. I popped into her stream yesterday, so I appreciate you hopping in here. She's a really good, Kirsty's a really good digital photographer, and she makes a lot of awesome content on Horizon, so any kind of support between Horizon creators is pretty awesome. So definitely check her. I just watched her video on some tips for photo mode, so I'm going to apply those to some of the new long panning shots I do, so definitely check her out. Let's see what else. From what I saw, it seems like Saltbite is Mono Lake because of the mini island that is located. Do you think this is a different place caused by the terraforming? Saltbite, yeah, that's an interesting, like a smaller Tanakh settlement that I would be interested to see kind of what happens there. Apparently, yeah, the water is very corrosive, very toxic, so they rely a lot on like not fishing, but like hunting local fauna as far as like birds and things like that. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how much I can speculate on Saltbite because we're just can't come soon enough, February, right? Do you think we will learn programming and other stuff? We know that Silens learned physics and calculus. It just kind of potentially goes into how much we're able to discover of the old world. There's some serious hints of the Odyssey project that I'm going to be talking about. I've talked about in other videos, but we're going to be talking a lot about at the panel that could potentially kind of be the key to unlocking a lot of new knowledge. The Homer archive that the original Apollo was based off of. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. Programming wise, I don't see anything kind of outside like what we kind of did with Cyan, kind of lining up, maybe like a mini game like we saw in PS4 Spider-Man and things like that. So potentially. Evening Neil. Let's see here. Do you think we'll see other Titan class machines like the Horus? Yeah, that would be truly frightening, but we do know that even though Pharaoh Automated Solutions dominated the automated weapons industry, they were by no means the only people who did that. So I think it kind of poses an interesting thing because where we're going is far more like at the height of Operation Enduring Victory against the Pharaoh Swarm, opposed to where the first game takes place, which is kind of like the last stand. So there's an option to see just a lot more actual like wartime wreckage between like naval forces, verts, Pharaoh machines, and otherwise in the Forbidden West. I think that's really crazy to think about. Sushi Chef, hi, Chili. Man, make me want some sushi. Um, let's see here. Do you think that we will fight a Horus? I think eventually that might be saved for the third game. That would be pretty nuts. Kind of a God of War style fight, because outside of that, I think it would be hard to take that thing down with just some plasteel arrows. Let's see. There are already 32 machines in total in both games. I hope there will be at least 50 in total. That would be amazing. Do you think that we will interact with Cyan through the focus in Horizon Forbidden West? I think there's a lot of speculation as far as almost like a Cortana role, like as far as Halo goes, like Cortana to Master Chief, kind of Cyan to Aloy, which could happen because, number one, I really like the Cyan character. The AI is very important, but I would not be surprised if we run into more AIs because they're not always going to be as advanced as something like Gaia or Vast Silver or Cyan. We learned from Cyan that there were many artificial intelligences used across various industries to varying degrees of sentience and advancement. So I would not be surprised if an AI did fill that role. If it was Cyan, I think that'd be pretty cool. RSQ, since Cauldron Epsilon was destroyed, does that mean Fire Claws, Frost Claws, and Scorchers are extinct? Dr. Cool, that's a really cool question. I think the Fire Claws specifically, if one was the most at risk of going extinct, would be that one, because they seem to have a very molten rock-esque aesthetic and capability. So I would probably, whether we're going to see them in the next game or not, I would not be surprised if we saw Scorchers. I think also Fire Claws and Frost Claws are very kind of indicative to the region of Yellowstone and thematically, and kind of if you're like, ooh, what kind of animals naturally exist and what kind of predators exist in this environment, I think Fire Claws and Frost Claws make more sense in that setting than a lot of the Forbidden West. But California has a bear iconography pretty stamped in there, so we could see, I would say, Frost Claws, Scorchers. I would be a little more skeptical on Fire Claws, principally because of all that volcanic kind of influence that the Epsilon Cauldron had within Firebreak. Let's see here. In how big of a chance is there for us to see another subfunction other than Hades? I would say almost, I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to go with like 100%. I think that we'll absolutely see another subfunction be a pivotal piece in this game. My picks, number one, would be Demeter, which was in charge of rewilding the world's flora. And with the Red Blight, I totally see a connection there. I don't see it being malicious, but I do think that we'll be interacting with Demeter. And obviously, since we're going to the ocean, I think Poseidon would be a shoo-in for that. So I think it's very, very, very likely that we'll see another subfunction. I sure hope we get to see more old world machines. Yeah, the thing about that is, as prevalent as they were during that time, a lot of them were purposely, obviously, not used against the Pharaoh swarm, because otherwise they would be slave to their own network and then be used against them. So I wouldn't be surprised. Kirsty, do you think the locket that Aloy gets from Elizabeth at the end will be beneficial to Aloy in saving the world in Horizon Forbidden West, or do you think it's more of a sentimental thing? I think at that moment, at the end of the game, it was definitely more of like a sentiment thing. You literally have the world in your hands, essentially, kind of moving forward, and you have the world at your disposal. But that could absolutely be used as a plot MacGuffin. You could absolutely have some kind of Master Override-esque plot point that's like, oh, I had it this whole time. But it's also kind of, it would be interesting if Elizabeth took something like that with her, because she knew she wasn't coming back, opposed to leaving it in Gaia Prime where it could have been used. So potentially, but I think it was very much symbolic at that point more than anything else. That's a good question. Heck, finally catching one of these. Thanks, Rory. Get that question in there, man. That's why we are here to talk about all that Horizon. Let's see here. Would the derangement have affected robots that never encounter humans, like those at the bottom of the ocean or Antarctica? That is a really, really interesting question. Because the kind of the derangement, as kind of termed by the Karja, is very much a response to human involvement. However, if Hephaestus, as a governing body, is kind of determining like, hey, we're across the board probably going to just continue to get more aggressive. If it has influence over those machines that were already built during Gaia's heyday, that could be an interesting thing. But if that's the case, I doubt that we'll ever even see them, because they're already hard at work doing what they were built to do, terraforming-wise. But I'd say that any machine that is hostile towards humans will run into, because Hephaestus wants you to run into them, because he wants us, or it wants us to die. How do the red storms work? Oh, Allie, that is a really good question. I would really recommend you watching, what video was it? It was either Rogue AI, or it's one of the later ones in our series on Horizon Forbidden West, because my wife, Silver, actually has a degree in meteorology and is far more educated to answer questions like these, and she really helped me kind of dive into that. But kind of in layman's terms, and also like non-educated people's terms, these storms, these supercell storms, are equivalent and larger than like Hurricane Katrina was, except even more frightening, they're occurring in a matter of seconds. The pressure is dropping to such a degree that it's just causing these supercell storms, hurricane-esque kind of weather formations, and it's incredibly devastating. If they continue to happen, it's absolutely an apocalyptic kind of situation to deal with. And I have my own thoughts on that as far as like vast silver and things that could be behind those events, but there's definitely something wrong. The atmosphere is, or the biosphere is collapsing. That has been confirmed by Gorilla. Hopefully they will show Aaron's reaction when he learns the true origin of the world. Yeah, I think as far as like people are concerned, though, I think the Oseram would probably take it the most, because they already kind of have this vision of the world being this ancient machine, this world machine that has fallen into disrepair. And if you look, one of my favorite data points in the whole game, it's a scanned glyph. It's called the Old Ones. And it really just kind of tells you what the tribes that we know well in Horizon, kind of what their origin of myth or their worldview is. And they're all kind of partially right. They kind of have pieces of the puzzle as far as like what happened to the world. And I think the Oseram would be like, oh, that does make sense. I mean, yeah. So if anybody's going to take it okay, I think they would. I think the Karja would be rocked to their core. I think the Banuk would be rocked to their core. So, it's one of those things where it would certainly be interesting to see what's going on as far as Aaron finally being like, oh, okay. He'd probably just be like, I trust what you say there, Aloy. Would there even be cauldrons in Antarctica? That's hard to say. There's definitely machines that are designed to purify and detoxify the oceans, and there were efforts made in the clawback to kind of start receding the massive amount of water displacement that happened from the polar ice caps melting. So I would say that would there be cauldrons there? I don't know, but I think there would be machines working around there. Let's see here. Do you think Aloy will ever go to space, Horizons Mysteries? I don't think so, principally because I think the game is better served on Earth. There's tons of interesting things to see, but I do think space, like the Odyssey, will definitely be a theme in the story going forward. Super excited to see my state in this game. Hope there are many landmarks in this game. Yeah, if you are between Colorado and California, you could see stuff. I just kind of lucked out. I naturally live pretty much what you would consider to be the sacred land of the Nora, so being able to see things is pretty crazy. Sweet, thank you so much for your super chat donation. That's super generous of you. Can't wait for RSQ to dive into the lore of Horizon Forbidden West. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I love your channel. Thank you, Sweet. Yeah, you're awesome. We appreciate you. You're always in these streams, and the people who make the community what it is awesome. That's why I do it. It keeps me motivated and keeps me wanting to keep diving in to see what we have waiting around the corner, for which later is going to be at the beginning of next month, the next comic in the Liberation arc, which I recommend that you read, number one, and then two, check out those videos. You learn so much about Ursa. She's quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in all of Horizon's lore. Let's see here. Leo Bohr, where would you think the third game would be in the U.S.? Could we even get to visit another country or even space? That's an interesting kind of point there, because there's a lot of kind of lore in the West, even in the old world, like pre-Pharaoh Plague. Like Ted Pharaoh was born in Utah. He attended college before he dropped out in California. So there's a lot of stuff that is there. So as far as a location for the third game, man, that's tricky. You could go east, but I would say south would be kind of interesting to kind of see what's going on there. So you kind of flesh out the or north. I mean, I'm in for all of the snowy stuff. You know, my favorite part of the game was like really so much of it was the Frozen Wilds. I think it was so good. It really fleshed out the Banuk tribe. I thought it was just really, really great. Do you think there will be any machines bigger than a Thunderjaw or a Tremor Tusk? I would not be surprised, and it's been one of the things that I've been wanting to see this whole time. I think like a whale shark machine, like a massive whale shark machine that's kind of like a water equivalent of a tall neck that just kind of goes through the ocean purifying, and it's just like massive, almost like a underwater version of the tall neck. Like you could go through it and go through certain, but something so big I would see as an aquatic machine. If it was going to be bigger than like a tall neck or a Thunderjaw or a Tremor Tusk, I would say it's probably going to be an aquatic machine. RSQ, what if Hades reactivated the Horus units? What would happen? Well, you would be in a ton of trouble because if they are able to start getting to a point where they can manufacture Pharaoh machines again, then you basically have a second Pharaoh plague on your hands because the self-replication was really the nail in the coffin. There were a whole bunch of stuff. You know, that whole cocktail of the chariot line of being able to slave enemy robots, being able to consume biomass as fuel, and then self-replication, like those three pillars and the self-replication part really would be terrible if you were able to get a Horus back up and running. Let's see. Oh, Brandon. Nice stash, bruh. Thanks. We're going to go, instead of No Shave November, we're going to go Movember. We're just going to go full stash. We'll see how that goes. Let's see here. I wonder if it won't be Indonesia going east into the dawn is where it began. That is true. The Pharaoh plague kind of did begin kind of in that, oh my goodness. What? Yeah, but kind of like the Indonesian sphere. Like there's a island off of the coast of Australia, I believe, that kind of kicked off the whole Pharaoh plague. They're like, oh, these things aren't listening. They're eating our fruits. Oh, this is a bummer. And then it starts eating the world. So that would be pretty cool. That's a really good idea if you're going to take it somewhere else. I would expect something like sharks in the sea, squids maybe. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could... I'm not sure how much combat-related machines we're going to have because I'm not sure how much combat you're going to be able to do underwater. That still remains to be seen. Something that I'm... excited but nervous about because there's a lot of games that have let me down as far as like underwater combat is concerned. It's a hard thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and rag on it because I don't have a lot of solutions to the problem either, so I'll leave that to people who are far more creative than me. I love the idea of a whale shark machines for a while. It would be awesome. I think so too, Rory. Yeah, absolutely. RSQ, how do you think Erend will get his focus? Well, I would say that having a focus probably makes it a lot easier to find other focuses. Even though they're not connected to Apollo anymore, I would imagine there are a number of them in any particular cradle facility because they were supposed to be used in the Lyceum learning centers. And there's probably, you know, she could have snagged one on the way out of All Mother Mountain, in a ruin. I would say there's all manner of places she could get them. But as far as like well-preserved ones, I would say like inside of Cauldrons would be your best bet. How would land masses have changed after the mass climate crisis from the plague and Gaia's terraforming? Well, we did get a kind of glimpse into what that looks like just very briefly during the gameplay reveal when they kind of flashed that map of the globe, and it's changed pretty drastically. Florida like just doesn't exist anymore, which is pretty nuts. There is quite a bit of the southern part of the California coast that is underwater still. So even though I think a lot of it was reversed during the clawback and potentially during Gaia's terraforming, I think we're still going to see a significant amount of landmass covered by water in this day and age. But if you want to get a closer look, definitely check out one of the videos. I think, like I said, either Rogue AI or the new Hades kind of revisited video about that theory that I really like. We definitely talk about kind of like the landmass and what we see there. Let's see here. Maybe, let's see here. No shark machines. They talked about it already. That's sad days. But I understand if you're not looking to have a lot of combat in the ocean, then you're probably not going to want to put like an apex predator in there. Might the Watcher flashbang thing, Shellwalker stun gun, and Longleg Sonic Blast be pre-Hephaestus additions from Gaia to non-lethally ward off human hunters? Potentially. The machines were very much described as being like standoffish and skittish pre Gaia's dying plea and when the unknown signal transpired. I'm having a hard time talking today. But that could have definitely been a thing just to kind of deter humans. You just don't hear a lot about machines attacking humans in general. Like if you look back at like legendary hunts, which is a scanned glyph from the Cardra perspective, it's a Hunter's Lodge one, where some of them they're talking about just bringing in like ungodly amount of like grazers and things like that because there were no machines that really were out to stop them. They were just kind of like picking them off like flies. They could run, but obviously Gaia didn't want to hurt humanity, so I would say probably their first instinct would be to avoid, but potentially, if you want to non-lethally control the population from destroying the things that are keeping your planet alive, that is a good thought. That is very interesting. I hope she gets a vehicle of some kind. That would be interesting. I'm always just in for more mounts. I was so thrilled to see Aloy riding a Claw Strider. I think that'd be awesome if you could ride a Sawtooth. I'd be super jazzed about that. A Ravager would be hard, but you could like sit on the back and control the turret, which would be insane. But yeah, I think just the more mounts that are available would be really cool. Let's see here. How do you think they will justify the fact that we will most likely have no equipment, or for sure the equipment we had at the end of HCD at the beginning of the game? Either one, by not mentioning it like so many games do, or some kind of probably like traumatic event has to happen. I played a lot of Destiny 2 when it came out, and that's a whole other ball of wax as far as like things that kind of disappointed me. But they did have a really good plot MacGuffin in the beginning of it where, the tower got attacked and everything got blown up and you're essentially starting from scratch. So that kind of event could justify pretty much anything. So Aloy might be kind of getting beat up in the beginning of this game like she did in the Proving last time. So look out for that. Let's see here. I hope there's a Shield Weaver outfit in Horizon Forbidden West, because it will definitely be a lot of help at fighting the heck out of those Tremor Tusks. Yeah, anything with an overshield I'm a fan of. I think it's one of those things where it's an interesting, that whole piece of armor has its own lore dedicated to it too, the Ultra Weave armor, which is kind of interesting to just kind of see, like, you're like, oh, this is where it's strong, this is where it's weak, and then went through a lot of checks and balances and processes to make sure that they kind of got it right in as much time as they had. So I would say that you could probably find some iteration of it, but it was definitely like a prototype armor that was starting to get put out, and unfortunately then the world ended. So there might not be many of them is kind of a root of what I'm saying. So we'll probably find something different, but I'm not sure if we're ever going to have the exact kind of thing. Let's see here. More variety of land animals is definitely necessary. Yeah, they kind of talk about that in the lore a little bit as to why we don't see like larger animals occupying the planet, because Artemis, which is the subfunction in charge of that, was never intended to do that fully autonomously, right? It was supposed to release phase 1 organisms, and then post Apollo education by humanity, they were going to come back because humans were going to reintroduce them once we were kind of like worthy stewards of natural preservation through the lessons that we learned. So lore-wise, that's why we don't see a greater diversity of animals. But that could change if that subfunction decides that it's now self-aware, it can do what it wants, or if Aloy finds herself in a position that she could potentially start that process, because she's probably the only person who could get into those facilities. Mark, hey, how's it going? Let's see here. What else we got? I love all the questions. What do you think happened to Eleuthia and Minerva subfunctions now that they're sentient but no longer serve any function? I talked about that. I made a video about that. God, now like a year or so ago. It's crazy. But essentially, like, yeah, what can we expect out of subfunctions who are not being detrimentally impacted by humanity, but also have basically served their purpose? And at this moment, kind of what we've seen from Minerva is it's just kind of chilling. You know, we see these subfunctions in a position where if their role is being impacted by humans negatively, then we start to see them act out more aggressively. Or in the case of Hades, that was just its function always to reset the biosphere to ground zero, and without its primary resources to do that, it had to improvise, right? So I would say that unless you actively see a subfunction being negatively impacted by humans, then you're probably not going to see it acting out in a way that is maybe not chaotic in the way that we've expected from Hades and Hephaestus. Let's see. I hope there are a lot of side quests. Me too. Definitely one of those people who I'm not as bad as my wife. My wife has played Skyrim so many times, and she's only just recently beat the main story because she does all the side quests, and I'm kind of like that, not to that extreme. But yeah, I will definitely like be like, oh, you have to save the world, but I'm like, oh, but this guy wanted me to go get like a bucket for him, and I bet he's gonna give me something cool. So yeah, I'm a big sucker for those, as you can tell by the name of the channel. Let's see, RSQ, do you think burrowers will take over the love people have for watchers because the burrower's paws look so cute? Yeah, we actually saw, if you guys missed it, they talked a little bit about it after the stream. Those little machines that were kind of like paddling through the water as Aloy dived from kind of the inside of that ruin into the water in the gameplay reveal, they're called burrowers, and we really didn't see them, but I could totally see them kind of doggy paddling their way into our hearts. That would be pretty sweet. Let's see here. Do you think Aloy will know or find a way to communicate with her friends that have a focus? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a big part of this game, where if you have people like Talana or Erend or heck, even Bryn being all crazy on your group chain, that could absolutely happen. I do see that being far more of a prevalent thing. We already see it with Silens, so I would imagine that, you know, the more people have that resource, the better moving forward. A Boris 7 boss fight. Like I said, I would go out on a limb, and we might see one in this game as like the climax of this game, but they might save it for a third one if they do plan on making a sequel. Hi, I love Horizon Zero Dawn PlayStation game. Amanda, so do we. You are in the right place. Let's see here. If Hephaestus really wanted to protect his machines, he would give Striders, etc., eyes on the sides of their heads. Yeah, they definitely could, but then, you know, easier to snipe that way. They don't even have to look at you. So we'll kind of see what's going on. Side quest, everyone personal errand, but I still do it. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna. Can you take care of my? Can you house sit for me for a few weeks? Sure. I don't have to save the planet or anything. I'll totally do that on my side quest. I've seen a few people thinking about legendary machines taken from our Red Dead Redemption 2 style perspective too. That sounds like it could be fun. I am always down for more legendary machines. I thought they were really cool. There were only really 2 of them in the first game lore-wise, which was Red Maw and the Claws Beneath. I know there was that corrupted Thunderjaw, which was kind of crazy, but as far as like machines that have carved out a place in history, I would love to see more of those machines. Yeah, so more legendary hunts. I'm in for that all the way. RSQ, do you think Erend might join Aloy in the ruins to uncover more secrets of the world? Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've already seen him there, so I think he's definitely going to be around and rocking and rolling, helping Aloy out. So, yeah, I would definitely be interested to see kind of what role he and Talana have to play, because those are the ones that are kind of like concretely almost confirmed to be there. RSQ, do you think Silens and Hades will team up and be the main villain of Horizon Forbidden West? That's the thing. I drop into the Reddit every once in a while, just, you know, if people have like lore questions or something, I'll just pop it in. If it's an easy one, I'll clear it up. But a lot of people think that Hades is helping Silens, but if in all actuality what happened, and we know this from the collector's edition game guide here, which is, by the way, I'm really hoping that something like this comes out for the next game. It wasn't in the collector's edition, but if something comes out, you bet your sweet bippy I'm gonna buy this. But there's a whole section here that talks about effectively what happened after that. And in summary, it's essentially that Silens had always planned on Aloy puncturing the housing of that Horus in order to use the Master Override, but in doing that, it transferred Hades essentially to another housing unit controlled by Silens. So it's far less about, is Hades helping Silens? Hades is a prisoner of Silens at this point, and depending on how that works and how much Silens is able to extract from Hades could be interesting. But it's definitely not, from what I can tell and what I've read and what we've seen, not so much a collaborative experience as much as it is now very much a one-sided exploitative relationship between the two of them. So I don't see... The thing is, Silens, he's definitely selfish. He's self-interested, but I do not see him being this... he doesn't do evil things for the sake of being evil. He's not a mustache-twirling kind of villain or even anti-hero or whatever you want to kind of label him. Very much in the realm of morally gray, and I'm going to do whatever I need to see my goals fulfilled. And we know that he is absolutely starved for knowledge, but he doesn't seem like a power-hungry person. But whatever is necessary to do that, then that's what's going to be done on behalf of Silens. RSQ, I know this is a bit cringy, but what are your thoughts on Aaron Loy? That's the thing. I think a lot of people like to ship Aloy with a lot of characters. I've seen a lot of Talana ships, seen a lot of Aaron ships. As far as her relationship goes, Aloy has always struck me as somebody who just has too much stuff going on for that right now. Like, you saw Avad kind of like putting the vibe out there, and she's like, listen, guy, like, I got stuff to do. It's like, this is not a ding on you, but like, this is not the time, man. You gotta get your head straight. So that she's very much, in my opinion, a business first kind of person. But as long as the relationship is executed well and sincerely, then I wouldn't mind seeing it. It's just one of those things where Aloy, since we've known her, has been incredibly driven towards a purpose, whether it was the proving as an outcast, and then it was finding out who Elizabeth Sobeck was, and then that leading into stopping the world from ending. Like, since we've known her, she's had very little downtime. And I think in her hierarchy of needs, that might be pretty low as far as what she's actually going after. Oh, yes, definitely. I'm not going to get myself too excited, but I'm hoping we will at least hear more on the workbench. Yeah, the workbench mechanic is pretty cool that they've talked about, or it has the potential to be. I would like the ability to modify more things in different ways or upgrade them in that sort of thing, opposed to just kind of like buying better gear. So I would be very interested to kind of see how that goes. But, at this point, I have a lot of faith in Guerrilla. They've done nothing but impress me with what they've put out. So I know they had that little snafu as far as like the upgrade path or something, as far as like from PS4 to PS5. But as far as like actual gameplay is concerned, I've always been really impressed. So I have faith that they'll do a good job. I hope we get to see more complex photo mode as good as Ghost of Tsushima at least. Yeah, Sultan, that's true. And in fact, I'm not sure how many people know this, but that's the principal reason why I kind of laid off of doing God of War videos as much. I love God of War. I'm so excited for Ragnarok. Leading up to that game, I read Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. But man, that photo mode for what I do is so sticky. Like it's not smooth. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the photo mode in Ghost. I'm a big fan of Ghost of Tsushima anyway. That's honestly what I play the most these days. I'm on Legends a lot. But yeah, that would be just being able to capture more moving images like that. I would just be like, oh God, that would be so good. I know all the digital photographers out there are like, yes, I want that to happen too. Will we see Nil again? Asked Connor. I find it unlikely because a lot of you killed him. Psh, who does that? But I'd say any character's fate that is left either way would probably be hard pressed to find. I hope that we find out more about him, because he's a very interesting character as far as like who he was. Like Nil isn't even his name. Like that's the name that he took after leaving Sunstone Rock. So there's like a whole history behind this person that we don't know, for better or worse. And I think if we could, even if he's not included, I would love to find out more about Nil in the next game. Let's see here. Hello, watching from France. Do you think that we will see Carja reunifications? Well, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in. I do. I kind of see that kind of giving closure to the arc of the first game. And I could totally see like a big celebration ceremony happening at Sunfall of the Carja becoming a united tribe again. And from there, Aloy's kind of called away. Even though Aloy, as far as the comics are concerned, leaves immediately after the events of, spoilers, after the Battle of the Elite, presumably to go to Sobeck Ranch, which we see kind of in the end credit scene of the game. But she might not come back to Meridian. She could just be going straight on to the Forbidden West from there. So it depends. I would say that lore-wise it would make sense because the Shadow Carja are not in good shape. So I could totally see them going back in the fold under the reign of Avad. It's a good question. Let's see here. Hey RSQ, the blight in the Horizon Forbidden West trailers comes in the form of red vines and plants. Do you think it's possible that Hades hijacked Demeter? I do think, in my opinion, something has begun to manipulate Demeter. There's a video I put out called Hidden Messages, which kind of gets into potential foreshadowing from the metal flowers, which are very much a Demeter thing, talking about more along the lines of like trying to get the word out that it's in trouble however it can. For my money, I would say that Vast Silver would be my number one suspect for that to happen, because unless Hades wanted that to happen, I don't think Hades is getting out of under his clutches anytime soon. And like I said, I don't see Silens as like this dealer in misery and strife purely for the sake of that. But if it does have an ulterior motive to him getting something, and that's just what has to be done, then yeah, that could totally happen. Do you think we will see an episode about Cyan? Well, I did make an episode about Cyan, but if you're talking about like the next game, then I think it's one of those things where we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I do, because it's also DLC content, so kind of assuming that everybody bought it and putting it into the next game could be a little presumptuous, kind of thinking about that as a programmer, or a game designer rather. Let's see here. That might be how Aloy's supplies become depleted in Horizon Forbidden West. She has to cross some very serious desert. That is very true. We see her kind of in the game, not the gameplay, but the initial release trailer, her crossing some pretty gnarly looking desert. So that is something to be talked about. Is Sobeck Ranch in the Forbidden West? That's a good question. I'm not sure where. Oh my goodness, I should know this. I'm ruining like all of my lore cred right now. Yeah, Elizabeth Sobeck. Where is she in this book? Like I said, also if you can get your hands on this book, it's so good. It's like it's stupid good. Born March 11th, 2020, Pisces, I believe. She was born and raised outside Carson City, Nevada. Yeah. So that's in the Forbidden West. Should have known that. Some things slip your mind. That's why you got to have the book. So, yeah, if Sobeck Ranch is in Nevada, she would have gone technically into the Forbidden West to get there. Can't wait to see more face paint in the new game. That was pretty sweet. I did love those additions. Hopefully we just get that right off the bat. Do you think they will try to reboot Gaia again? Before you do that, you definitely have to make sure that Hades is out of the equation. And it's not. but I'm not sure if Aloy knows that or how she'll come to find that out. So that could be a goal, and kind of like we're on our way to do this, and then bada bing, bada boom, Red Blight, Rebel Tenakth, collapsing biosphere, got other stuff to deal with before that. So I do think that is how the series will conclude, though, is with the restoration of Gaia. Is that a lore book? I've been living under a rock. It's just the game guide, but there is a pretty hefty section on the lore in the back of the book. So this one for me, it's all scratched up. It's well loved. It's well read. But if you're interested in the lore, a lot of the stuff that people ask me, like with our Nora video, our video on the tribe, a lot of that stuff isn't mentioned in the game, but there's a really detailed kind of explanation about a lot of the Nora tribes rituals and norms and things like that from the book that kind of add additional context to things. So yeah, if you're a lore lover, I would recommend it. I love my book. I remember Travis talking about a hot mess of a biosphere, specifically mentioned superstorms, also the telemetry from the reactivated Tallneck in the Frozen Wilds. Yeah, we definitely talked about that a lot. I've always had this sneaking suspicion that the signal was either the Hades transmission just trying to take control, or kind of a manipulated version of that. So yeah, whether that comes to fruition, I'd say it's probably a bold call, but I would be interested, and I think it's plausible. RSQ, do you think Silens' motivations will pit him against Aloy in Forbidden West? Yeah, especially since he's seen kind of fraternizing with those Rebel Tenakth. They have the ability to override machines now, so that could definitely, I would not see Aloy really being cool with that. Steve, can you explain the connection between the Odyssey and the 3 sky objects? Does appearing in Metal World mugs and Nora paintings suggest Earth occasionally passes through the debris field? That's the interesting thing, Steve. Yeah, I think either because we do see like artwork from Nora artists, or that's the interesting thing. The ones that are depicted in All Mother Mountain are definitively Nora. The ones in Devil's Grief look exactly the same, and they are Nora. There is Nora art there. However, it's interesting that it's in a ruin, which the Nora typically aren't allowed to go into. So they're probably very old, if that was the intended purpose behind them. Maybe before things were officially labeled as taboo, probably around like the start of when the people who became the Nora and the people who became the Carja diverged. I would say that if we're thinking about kind of if it passes through the debris field, I think there's 2 kind of reasons why that happened, why that art exists. Number one, from a design standpoint, they planned on putting this plot point in the first game and decided to save it for the second one, and that's just kind of an artifact from that. And then now it's just been saved for the next game. Or yeah, some pieces of the Odyssey have come back before, but I think the definitive 3 meteor or debris kind of symbolism there is definitely connected to the Odyssey 3 ships flying symbology that is very much prevalent in the ancient vessel or the mug of the Odyssey project. So I think we are definitely meant to draw parallels there. It's just too similar not to. So I think the Odyssey will definitely have a part to play in the next game. Whether it's already been here or not is a big question, or whether, like I said, it's just an artifact that was left over from a plot point that was supposed to be in Zero Dawn and then is now being carried over to Forbidden West. RSQ, will we see Amadis in Horizon Forbidden West because Talana and Amadis are close? Do you think he'll have a role in the sequel? That's a good question, Ron. For those who don't know, Amadis is a character in the Sunhawk arc of the Horizon comics, and he is a former Carja soldier who went into exile after killing his superior officer because he was sending his troops into a death march. Or marching them to their death, and they were absolutely crushed by the Tenakth in the Forbidden West. Cool detail. Yeah, he's very skilled. I'm not sure. I would love to see him in there, especially since he and Talana are, like you said, are close, and they dedicated some time to him. So I would say not outside the realm of possibility. It would be cool to kind of see some comic characters being carried over into the actual game, give them their time to shine. Since Ross's Grave is going to be too far now, do you think there will be another / different way mechanic to do something similar, like how we spoke about what we have done? I really liked that touch, and I only did it on my second playthrough. I had no idea that was a thing on my first playthrough of Horizon until somebody's like, you should go visit Ross's Grave through like certain like big events, and I was like, oh snap. And yeah, it's a really cool like meditative moment. So I would certainly hope so. I don't know what that would look like, but it was one of my favorite pieces also, so I do hope there's something similar. Will the black armored robots from the comics appear in this game? If so, will they replace regular variety in areas the player has hunted a lot, or be a rare spawn? I would love to see that mechanic. There's already machine evolution in the first game, which is pretty crazy to think about. Another thing that is in the guide, essentially meaning that if you kill a certain number of machines, then they will start being manufactured with like heavier armor, and they'll just be harder to take down. So I think that would be a natural kind of evolution off of that evolution in the next game, to find things that are more challenging. And maybe like these, if you take down enough machines in a certain area, it will like summon this harder variant of the machine that was supposed to be protecting that area. And then, so I could totally see that being a game mechanic. And I think it would be cool. It would definitely cause a lot more random encounter fun stuff. I think it would be along the lines of the more stuff to do outside of just the side quests and plot points that you can just do in the open world, I'm always a big fan of. Odyssey looks like one of the biggest plot lifter. Yeah, the Odyssey is a huge question mark in the lore of Horizon. And the biggest question mark is it still around? Because telemetry indicated that it had suffered catastrophic failure as it tried to leave the solar system. So, but yeah, if that's not the case, there's some stuff on that colony ship that are absolute game changers to the world of Horizon. Rory, is there anything you'd like to see from the Utaru? I'm assuming we'll see more of the Utaru as we see them in the trailers, and Aloy seems to be wearing their clothes. Yeah, they did a really cool... if you go to the Horizon Forbidden West website, the PlayStation affiliated one, they have these awesome cosplay guides, which even if you're not a cosplayer, they're really interesting to look into. So, and they kind of dive into that Utaru armor that she's wearing. And, I'm just interested to find out more about them. I'm big into diving into the culture of these fictional tribes. Those are some of my favorite videos to make about the Nora and the Oseram, and just kind of like what their cultural norms are, because I like that kind of sociological thought experiment behind the tribe. So I really just hope that they flesh out more of their culture. We kind of know them to be more peaceful, agriculture based, but these are really broad strokes. It's like, what is their political structure? Like, I'm a big nerd about stuff like that, so I would really like to just see more details on the Utaru, and I would just like to see them kind of intelligent in a different way than the Oseram, right? Where you have the Karja and the Nora, who are very zealous and hold true to their belief systems, where the Oseram are just very much like very technical, and these tinkerers that are really understanding or have a better scope of that than a lot of the other tribes. And the Bunuk kind of touch on that a little bit, but I would love to see the Utaru just be light years ahead in like agriculture and sustainable farming, and just being like, oh yeah, this is just, I don't know why these people are doing all this. That seems so hard, like domestication and things like that. Just really focused and advanced in another area of kind of their society than other places. Do you think that we'll still be able to visit a place like the Norland and Meridian? Like I said before, I find it unlikely. However, if it is there, I would like it to be filled with stuff. Do you think machine evolution will progress to the point where new attacks or new machines will evolve, similar to how Frost Claws, quote-unquote, evolved in the Fire Claws? I do see, just whenever Hephaestus thinks that he can make something a little bit harder to deal with, going back to the drawing board and making harder variants of that machine. So I could totally see that. Let's see here. Will there be more Pharaoh bots except the Titan to fight? Well, you still have the Scarabs and the Khopesh machines, But as far as the chariot line itself, the only ones that are mentioned and the ones that we see in FAS headquarters are those three. I think those are the three that make up the chariot line. We might be able to see other Pharaoh machines or, branding in general. I mean, Pharaoh was everywhere even before they switched to automated military technology. So I think we're just going to see artifacts of FAS all over the place because they were just such a big company. The Utaru armor shown in the state of play was really cool. Can't wait for the Tanakh armor and any new ones. Yeah. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure none of the Tanakh armor are going to have shoes because I'm pretty sure from what we've seen in the first game and second game, they're not shoe people. They're not. So when celebrating a Nora child's birthday, they celebrate the mothers instead of the child. That is absolutely right there, Frog. And that's one of those interesting details that you would never get in the game. And I promise I do not have a sponsorship from Gorilla or this book as much. Hey, hit me up. Yeah, it's all those nice little interesting bits are in there. And I try to squeeze, if you haven't seen our Lore Bites series, a lot of the stuff that I can't fit into full-fledged videos, that's why I made that. It's this is really interesting, but it's I don't want to string this out into 8 minutes of just filler, but here's the information. So check out Lore Bites. I like that series a lot. Do you think Hephaestus will... Oh, goodness, I lost it. Oh, there we go. Do you think Hephaestus will be the main boss in Forbidden West? I think Vast Silver is going to be the main big bad in Forbidden West. Do you think Hekarro is the dragon hologram we saw in the trailer or a different AI? So there was this, I made a brief video on it, essentially about the released cast on IMDb. However, I know that it's subject to people who are not official changing that site, but there was somebody mentioned to be playing the part of something called Hekarro, which was interesting because it was all in caps, much like all the sub-functions and AIs. The dragon that we see, I think, is far more indicative of probably just something that we see in San Francisco. They have a really vibrant Asian community there. And I would probably just say that if I were going to guess something, that would just be a kind of remnant of that area of the city. Because, the HoloNet was a thing before 0 Day, where essentially the internet is replaced with this basically hologram version of that, the HoloNet. So I think probably just tapping into some aspect of the HoloNet in that area, and you're probably seeing a dragon. As cool as it is, I'm not sure how much greater significance it has, but it is flipping cool. Do you think the core background of what is going on will be revealed? Like what started all this for the machines to go crazy? Do you think we'll only have another piece of the puzzle? Yeah, that's, oh man, that's the biggest secret. That's the biggest mystery, the mystery of the signal, right? The mystery of the unknown transmission. So, oh man, I hope that we get more clarity on what's going on there because, oh man, it's killing me. I gots to know, but they could totally save that for the third game too. I hope that we get it, but we'll see. What form do you think the Vantage / collectibles will take in Horizon Forbidden West? Some kind of generic tourist thing. I think that is an interesting piece because, number one, if you haven't collected the Vantage points in Horizon Zero Dawn, 1, go do that. 2, beyond just the visual aspect of it and the audio aspect of it, there's a whole written story within the Vantage points, but be aware they are taken out of order, so you kind of have to rearrange them or watch my video. And then but it's like oh gosh, that whole story is just heart-wrenching and beautiful. And but anyway, we're probably not going to see that again because that was experimental, I believe it's called Eternity Tech that Pharaoh was producing, that those are made out of. And Bashar kind of accidentally stumbled on the fact that the world was ending, and then he just kind of went on this spiritual walkabout about his life and visiting the places that meant something to him as he grew up. But he was using that technology, and I'm not sure if that technology is going to be prevalent elsewhere. It could be, but there were absolutely hollow tourist attractions. They talk about one that was really crummy in New Orleans in one of the data points. So I would love to see more vantage points. Lore-wise, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to line that up, but I would be very, very thrilled to see that. RSQ, whose life do you think we're going to try to find, similar to finding out Elizabeth, or will it be something else? There's a lot more about Elizabeth that we just don't know. There's a whole section there that we kind of we don't get to dive into between she starts working at FAS and then she meets up with Ted Pharaoh. Like that whole part of her life, she was accomplishing a lot. She founded a different company called Miriam Technologies, which was still all about life-positive technology. She won all these awards. So I'm pretty sure Aloy is going to be even more interested now than ever to find out not just, who this person was as far as like their identity, but who this person was as a person, like trying to get closer to the character of Elizabeth. So I wouldn't just be surprised if she's still doubling down on trying to find more about Elizabeth, because I think the more that we find out about Elizabeth, we're probably going to dive into what we're trying to figure out with Vast Silver. There's hints towards the head of Firebreak, or the head programmer, named Anita Sandoval, working on the project. It's not confirmed, but it's strongly implied that that's the case. So I think kind of tracing back Elizabeth's history in AI will help kind of shed light on what exactly Vast Silver is, what it's capable of, and what its motivations are. So I would think that it would be very interesting to just continue kind of diving into Elizabeth's past, because it's probably entangled with Vast Silver in some aspect, I would guess. Geneva is not a woman or a man. They have not confirmed her. Warden Geneva. Oh, fair enough. Okay, Sushi. If Vast Silver is an antagonist in Horizon Forbidden West, what do you think their true motivations is when it comes to weather patterns? I have this like back of my mind theory that the weather getting messed up was just a means of triggering Hades to do the job itself, and now that it didn't work, now you got to like take it to the next level. So yeah, I think it's... Oh, man. I think motivation of that is that Vast Silver never really had a good relationship with humans. We find out that it's very fearful, and that's probably why it tried to escape and then was captured. So it had a very checkered past with humanity, and principally, it can exist without it. It can exist in a world that it doesn't need food, it doesn't need organic material, it can just exist. So it could wipe out humanity and be just fine. Just fine. Let's see here. The Vantage Points is the most beautiful piece of lore I have seen in the whole game, and shows about the whole human condition in the universe. Yeah, for real. It's so good. It is absolutely, it is not to be missed. If you like Horizon, and if you haven't taken the time to look into the Vantage Points, please do. It is a wonderful story. Let's see. Do you think armor set comparable to Shield Weaver, or maybe a weapon, will be present in Forbidden West? Well, we have confirmation that we're going to get this whole other mechanic. I believe they're called Valor Strikes, that are going to allow us to be a lot more diverse with our weapons, and we see like things being electrified and stuff like that. So I would say, and we have the shield glider or whatever. So I see us using that technology in different ways. I'm not sure if it's going to be, like I said, 1-to-1 Shield Weaver. Let's see here. Who else we got? I feel like I missed some up above. At Maker's End, when you enter Pharaoh, you get a message that Elizabeth is really overdue for an appointment. Always felt this hinted towards something really important he wanted to tell her personally. Well, that could be, she could have left in a huff, right? She could have been like, I'm out. I'm not working for you anymore. And it's not like they had a good relationship after they left. Pharaoh continued to throw, lawsuits at her left and right. So that it could have been in relation to any of those things that she just decided not to show up to, because she only decided to see him after he dropped all of those lawsuits against her. So I'd say I think it's also just kind of a clever way of establishing like an actual definitive time for how long it's been. Do you think that humans were behind the signal? Because to me, it doesn't make sense for it to be another AI. Do you think we'll be able to visit Ted Pharaoh's place? Hashtag Ted Pharaoh's mean. Yes. That's the thing. It could be human interference. It just, man, to like outwit Gaia would, in my mind, is a colossal feat. Arguably the most advanced AI ever created. So to be able to get one over on her seems like a colossal task that might just not be up to human ingenuity. So for me, the only entity that we know of right now that can theoretically kind of be on the same level as Gaia to me is Vast Silver, because when it was designed, there was no regulations as to its sentience, because all of those regulations were established after it and because of it. So for me, I think Vast Silver, there's just so much that we don't know and so much you can do with that concept. And I just think that, it's one of those things that I think if you were going to try to have something compete with Gaia, it would have to be something like Vast Silver. But that's just my opinion. Hello just popped in to say, oh, I will watch the vid from start when it's uploaded. Thank you very much. You guys make it absolutely worthwhile. It's so awesome to continue to grow this community as far as people who love Horizon lore and just want to share it with other people, and how positive it is and how people are just willing to not judge others. Like, how do you not know who that is? Just like, oh, let me tell you. And I think that's the best way to go about it. This is another kind of prevailing theory. Maya, sorry if I mispronounced that. I feel like I'm butchering it. If VS was hiding on the Odyssey, it would have had access to what seems to be an alpha build of ZD, not just Apollo, with 700 years to pick that code apart. Yeah, because we learned that Vast Silver was captured, but then the lore purposely leaves doubt in that, as it appeared in just some random hollow thread about this hollow horror series called Tormented. And so it's interesting. It's like, why leave that there if you want us to just firmly believe that Vast Silver is off the board? I think it's very much in play, and that could absolutely be the case. If you're trying to escape humanity and you don't want to deal with them anymore, sneak aboard a colony ship that has very few people, if any people on it, mostly just zygotes of the yet to be born people. And then you have the framework of that. You have an alpha build of Apollo. So I would think would be a very interesting way for Vast Silver to come back. Could have sent the signal from space to trigger things. I would be so surprised if Vast Silver was not at the root of at least one of these major conflicts in the sequel. Vast Silver is Can Vast Silver, we've been talking about Vast Silver a lot. Vast Silver is an AI that was created for climate intervention in the 2040s as a result of this horrific climate crisis in the 2030s. And really all we know about it is that one day it went rogue, but it escaped. And I want to say it escaped for about a year. I could be wrong or have my dates a little bit off, but then it was recaptured apparently. But what happened in that year, that is some unaccounted time. We have no idea. And after the fall of humanity, we really don't have any idea of what happened to it after that. So as far as it is a climate crisis and regulation AI. So if something's going to regulate the climate to start spinning out of control, you'd find a harder fit than Vast Silver, in my opinion. RSQ, what's your opinion on the 4-piece soundtrack released by the composers? I think all of the music that they do is beautiful. I want, hopefully when the game releases, I can pick up the whole original soundtrack because, it's just so good. They're doing a great job. If you put the HCD data points in chronological order, there is an undercurrent of an AI exploring and becoming increasingly aggressive. There's a lot of I think people really do sleep on how deep this lore is. Like, just looking at it, like that's the reason why I go through all the time and keep looking for things, because there are just some things I'm like, oh my gosh, like, or the wonderful thing about having such a great community is people pointing things out to me that maybe I missed. And then I can kind of pick those apart and kind of dig in and see what's to be had there. Because, it's pretty deep. Dr. Cool, Vast Silver is my favorite character, and I haven't even seen him yet. Yeah, it is a crazy, crazy thing to think about. Let's see here. Ted Pharaoh was not a stupid person, but he may have gotten a little crazy in his own bunker. Do you think when he deleted Apollo and killed the alphas that he had the backup himself or a database for himself? Potentially, but like you said, I think Ted Pharaoh is not a dumb person in the classic sense. I think he's a very intelligent person who doesn't have a lot of thought into what happens next. Definitely somebody who asks if you could, opposed to asking if you should. And then you have all of these terrible things that kind of spiral out of control after that. As far as like saving one for himself, I doubt it. I think in his mental state as it was, he was just like, get rid of every copy, and then I'm going to live out the rest of my life, then I'm going to die, and that's it. Hopefully, all of my mistakes are buried with me. Do you think Areve went to the West for some greater reason? That's an interesting bit to speculate on there, Ali, is, Areve was the Sun King that ventured into the Forbidden West. He took a cohort of men. He tried several times to kind of break through these sandstorms around the Daunt. And then finally he was able to break through and was never seen again. And his brother, because he didn't have an heir, Bossadid, said, okay, no more of this. We're going to build Sunfall, and everything beyond this to the west is now forbidden, hence the Forbidden West. The justification that is said in the lore is that he took the sun's rising and falling as a challenge. Like, he wanted to go and chase the sun, find out where the sun goes at night. So as far as he's a very zealous person. So I think in his mind, that was very much a higher purpose of, I am going to chase the path of the sun. I am the speaker of the sun. I am the Sun King. This is like my holy duty to do this. So I think in his opinion, definitely a higher purpose, but definitely up to interpretation as to what you believe is kind of a higher purpose there. I think he definitely felt it. Let's see here. What would rise like the tide and what would flood once in a while? Oh, I think you guys are having a side conversation. Hello. I'm an hour behind in the stream, but I'm loving nerding out about video game lore and found your channel recently. Well, thank you. Glad you found us. We are very much lore folk, so you are, in the right place. Let's see. Let's go up a little bit, see any that I missed here. Wasn't the corruption spread through nanites? Aloy is more direct and doesn't use them, I think. Well, the nanites, I think, are far more... the nanites are far more about the nano haze and the bio conversion from biomass into fuel than it is about the slaving to enemy networks. So I think as far as nanites are concerned, I think that is more the biomass side. I don't think that's so much connected with the slaving of other machines. Let's see here. Is there any lore pieces of... Oh, no, it slid up. Is there any lore piece of the Battle of the Daunt or the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts? Yeah, so those are kind of named battles. Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, I believe, is mentioned kind of around Aratak and the defense of the Cut against the Karja and the Red Raids. And then the Battles of the Daunt, that's in reference to a battle that the Karja were in and that Nil was a part of. But outside of that, yeah, I have looked and looked, so not to the best of my knowledge, unfortunately. I want to know more about those things, too. Wouldn't it be fun if Areve went all around the world by chasing the sun? Yeah, wound up right back. Oh, man. Yeah, I guess the world is round. Darn. Let's see here. Do you think that weather will be more dangerous, such as sandstorms that will deal damage and thunderstorms with lightning? Well, if you get struck by lightning, you are wrecked. I do think that in a narrative sense, it will definitely play a part. In a gameplay sense, I'm not entirely sure. I think sandstorms, you're obstructing vision. Maybe you have like machines that hide in the sand, and that in those particular environments are like particularly hard to deal with, like a rock breaker on steroids or something like that. So I do see that sandstorms might be able to be a piece of that, but and wind kicking up because you got these supercell storms. So I think maybe it might just be kind of like an in-game event where Aloy might have to take cover and find cover from, a supercell storm that's just dropping on a city, and you have to ride that out for a little bit, and then you can come back to the surface. I could see something like that happening. Random side quest. I wonder how far the series will take machine evolution aspect. I imagine the T-1000 liquid metal robot that can shapeshift. That is terrifying. I would not want to fight that in a million years. Come up to Aloy. Is this your father? With a picture of Rost. By the way, if you haven't seen Terminator 2, you totally should. How would we be able to fight Vast Silver? I mean, sure, it's an AI, but Hades was kind of the one controlling stuff. So does this mean that VS will come out of hiding then? Potentially, or we're going to have to find it. We're going to have to find Vast Silver, because I think this is really what the crux of the first part of the story is going to be like. What is happening? Then you find out what's happening, and then you have to find out why, and then where, and then you stop it from happening. So, yeah. Yeah, Jonathan, with arrows. Yeah, the same way we solve every problem. And slings, and oh man, there's all kinds of yeah, it's pretty nuts as far as like, yeah, Vast Silver is the thing I've been focusing on for a long, long time. Do you think we will have a mission to take down a Metal Devil Horus in this game? Perhaps. I think it will be better saved for the last game. I'm wondering if the Grand Canyon will be in Horizon Forbidden West. Your videos inspired me to dig around the area on Google Earth, and I've learned about so many cool looking geographic locations that are nearby. There are so many. Yeah, it has always been my secret hope for me personally. Grand Canyon, maybe. I think that's going to be hard to scale because it's so big. So they might avoid it just because of just the sheer immensity of it. If you've never been to the Grand Canyon, it is such a weird thing because it's hard if you're just looking at it to comprehend the true scale of the thing. It's more like you're looking at a picture of the Grand Canyon, in my opinion. So that would be kind of hard. But for my money, the thing that I really hope they include is our segments of Las Vegas. I really hope that it's in there. I think, oh man, that'd be great. Let's see here. I'll need to be more specific. What kind of knowledge to Armon gain? What is the true nature of the leaves? Does it have to do with anything from the old world? Keep in mind, actual books aren't here. Well, I think the Ancient Leaves, they could have found a book, like in a bunker, because the leaves... So, for context... Ahriman was the person who became the first Karja king. He's the first Sun King of the Karja, the first speaker of the sun. And as the legend goes, basically found this text that allowed him to become the speaker of the sun. But in all actuality, you're finding a text that allowed you to navigate using the sun. And then, through that process, you are guided to Eagle Canyon, where... the city on the mesa was built, Meridian, underneath the spire. And they named it Meridian because that is the highest point in the sun, or in the sky for the sun. So I think there's the possibility that you could maybe find a book. We do see kind of like ruined books in like the bunker that Aloy stumbles into as a child. So, they could have found something like that. Several hundred years have passed after that. Another theory of mine is the third game will be in the HoloWeb. That would be pretty crazy. It needs its own game to do it the terrain justice. I think I missed a comment that gave it a better explanation. Minerva can stop Vast Silver. Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're looking for something to crack a code or to break something down and force deactivation codes, Minerva could be a good option. That is a good way of thinking about it. Good point. Let's see. RSQ, a channel has covered their detail of pre-extinction events. Do check it out. I'll have to, yeah. I'm currently in the midst of putting together a massive flippin' video that will release, I would want to say, like, maybe a month and a half out from the release date of the game. That is a complete Horizon timeline video. So I'm trying to avoid other people's videos, principally not because I don't want to watch them. It's principally because I don't want there to be any lead over. I want to make sure that things are going. But yeah, it's going to be flipping huge. So I'm sure they did a really good job as well. The cards book they found, they call it the Old Leaves or something. Yep. Do you think Thunderjaws are going to make a reappearance, and what other machines do you see coming over into this game? Well, we see a few already. We see Snapmaws kind of in the riverways and stuff. We see Aloy riding a charger, I believe. So I do think most of the machines we'll be seeing again. I think Tallnecks will be back. I think Thunderjaws will be back. I think some of the Forbidden West, same initials, the Frozen Wilds machines might not make the cut. But I do think that that's going to be a thing, that we're going to see a lot of repeat machines. Let's see. What do you think your turnaround time will be for the video? The next Liberation comic will be. It's coming out on the 20th. Generally, I try to, because they come out on Wednesday, I try to crank out that video in a week and then air them that Sunday. So I've been able to do that thus far. So that's kind of my turnaround time. It's not my ideal turnaround time. I usually like to take a week to do a video at the very least, just to make sure that, everything is how I want it to be. I don't like to rush things. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we do like a half a week turnaround to that Sunday, the Sunday that it comes out, or the Sunday after rather. Let's see here. Thunderjaws are confirmed. You can see them in the background of the SOP countdown. Yep, there you go. What's your favorite Tyr sass moment? Anytime that she's like telling Lansra to just not be freaking out. It's like, it's a curse. She's like, ugh, whatever. Nobody cares about her. What happens if it turns out Vast Silver wasn't behind any of it? Then I will be super interested to find out what was. Either way, right? These are all predictions. I'm not going to be disappointed, unless it's like a disappointing story, which, I have faith in Guerrilla. They came up with something excellent the first time. But if my speculations are not accurate, I'm not going to be disappointed. I just want to know. Do you think that before we go to the Forbidden West, we'll have a scene or a cutscene where we're still in Norland or Meridian? I could see that. Do you think the series will stop after the third game, or will expand into spin-offs or other mediums? I could totally see it expanding into other mediums, especially with how people are picking up, these IPs and turning them into other things. So it makes me a little nervous, but because I think it's in the exact right medium that it should be. But yeah, I think it's probably going to end after 3 games, which makes me sad, but... Hi, RSQ. Got to get back to work. Will you be uploading this? Yes, Sarah, I will. All the VOD will be up immediately after. It takes like maybe like an hour or so to get fully uploaded, but it'll be here. And have a good rest of your day at work. Hey, RSQ, do you think we'll see Bryn in the Forbidden West? I know he fled to the Forbidden West, but people who missed or skipped that quest will be confused who he is. Yeah. Bryn is this drinker of machine blood who is Banuk, but then just kind of left. He did something. He was drinking machine blood, which was not down with the Banuk. And their whole thing is like, okay, we're just gonna throw you out on the ice and see if you survive. And if you survive, you can do whatever you want. And if you die, well, then you weren't really Banuk. So instead of going back to his tribe, though, he just kind of left and he ended up in the Carja Sundom. But yeah, he says that he is headed into the Forbidden West, so I would absolutely expect to see him in the Forbidden West. Let's see here. Always wondered about Tyrsa's age. She is a high matriarch in the beginning of Zero Dawn, and 19 plus years later, she's still alive. Yeah, so in order to be a high matriarch, you have to be a great grandmother, I believe. You have to have like 2 levels of living progeny or something like that. There's definitely a level there. Like you're a matriarch if you're like a mother, or no, I think you have to be like a great grandmother almost, if I get this correctly. I can pull this up right quick. I hope so. Yeah, but or you check out the Nora video. That will give you all the answers to that. I think it's you're either a great grandmother or a great grandmother in order to be a high matriarch. Hello, why is the Horus attacking Eleuthean 9? I get that question a lot. I get that question a whole bunch. Why is that metal devil diving into the cradle because the whole kind of thing is like, why would it be doing that if it didn't know where it was, and if Minerva was able to shut down the Pharaoh swarm before that happened? And to be honest with you, I don't know. It could have caught a whiff. It could have just been looking for stuff and have penetrated that thing. It's really kind of it's a big mystery. I don't think we're ever going to get an answer, though, like a concrete answer, which is unfortunate. Let's see here. Tinfoil theory. Regalia is the child of Rost. Oh, like as in the name of the thing there. That would be interesting, because Ross did have a family before Aloy. If you don't know his whole story, we did a video called 12 Outlanders, which is, his story is nuts, tragic, and dude's BA for sure. Gabe Gamers, when's your next vid? The next one, unless we have something that comes up before then, will definitely be our next comic video on the Liberation. Let's see here. If each generation is 20 years, you could have many generations and still be relatively young. Yeah, it depends. What is the common life expectancy in Horizon? Without modern medicine and with the world as dangerous as it is. So that's another reason why it's really hard to be a high matriarch, because it's not just like your progeny have to be living. So if like one of them perishes, then you kind of get dropped down a rung, which is an interesting thing. Do the alphas have a backup plan, or is it just in case something happens, a core backup will place somewhere for someone to download view later as a contingency plan? I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Zach, as far as a backup plan. I think the Zero Dawn was the plan, the entire plan. They didn't have time to make a lot of like, in case Zero Dawn doesn't work. Odyssey was in case Zero Dawn didn't work, and vice versa. So I think that's kind of there. RSQ, I think the Red Blight that sent the signal to Gaia, and the storm that knocked out the Tallneck and the Stormbird and the Frozen Wilds. I personally think that they're all connected. They are all connected. I think that is very... to what degree they're connected is up in the air, but I think it's definitely one of those things where once we have all the information, we're gonna be like, that's how I always feel. I'm like, how did I not see that? Like, but you're only ever if you always feel like you're just one piece of lore away from putting all the puzzles together, and you're just Charlie in the bar with all his like yarns and conspiracy theories. That's how I feel half the time. Let's see here. Machine blood is hydraulic fluid. Yeah. Gross. All right. Welcome back there, Hornet. Bob. Be interesting to see what lore explanation for Bryn's ability is, though. Yeah, because as tripping out as he is, he's kind of on point for a lot of things. I brought this up in Kirsty's stream yesterday. It's like he's definitely like half crazy, but also kind of calling it. Like if you were gonna put some bets down, like have like, talk to Bryn a little bit. Let's see here. What else do we got? Has the third game been confirmed by Guerrilla yet? If it has, what do you think it will be about? I have a theory that a lot of it will travel to another continent like Europe or Australia. Getting to those places would be the difficult part, but if you could find like they're called verts, which are essentially like these big old they're just transportation machines. So if you could find one of those, you could get there and get it up and running. Let's see here. Deathseeker Rost versus Helus. Ah, yes, that is. I recently put out a top 10 list of who I thought the best warriors in Horizon were, and it's definitely hard to put together because you have people who are like really good in war and other people who are like machine hunters. And I put Helus above Rost, but I get what you're saying. Like when they fought, Rost was well past his prime. So I totally get what you're saying there. I think, man, that is a hard one to say because we've only seen Rost fight a bit, and we've seen Helus fight a fair amount. That would be it's up in the air. I think 1-on-1, probably Rost would win because I think he's better with a bow, and I think that would really outweigh things if they were just kind of like stumbling upon each other. RSQ, did you order the regalia? I did not. I was trying to find an edition that had a game guide in it, but then I reached out and they said that it wasn't in that one, so I'm waiting for that. That's what I'm saving my money on. As cool as the sculpture and everything is, I got the digital deluxe, I think, what's all the pre-order bonuses. Let's see. I believe there may be androids still roaming the planet or watching things. Well, there are definitely like humanoid machines, like the multi-servitors and cradles, but they were shut down. They're kind of put to sleep to conserve energy. But yeah, humanoid machines, that would be an interesting next step. Not sure if it'll happen, but we'll definitely see. Bryn brings up some interesting points. And I'm sure he has terrible digestion issues. Going back to the idea of the third game, and the Savage East is mentioned within the lore, could this be the title of the third game? What do you think? Potentially. Like I said, this seems to be very North American centric. As cool as it would be to visit all these other places, I hope we learn more about them. But the problem that I always run into is like, how do you get there? Unless you can get a vert up and running again, and Aloy can fly that thing across the world, that's going to be really tricky to do. That, or you get like a rigged sailing ship somewhere, and then you go and you have like Horizon Black Flag on your hands. Only machine could test oils stuff to determine the machine condition. So you're kind of under the assumption that Bryn is a cyborg, potentially, or a android. That would just be like, I feel a little unlikely. I think that's more of like a nod to Banuk shamanism and how they do get things right. They kind of like, it's far more spiritual than it is scientific, but they do tend to tap on some things that are relevant. Even the Karja, at a certain point, I think under Avad, reached out to the Banuk to be like, listen, we want your input as far as the derangement as well. Let's see here. Yeah, and as far as the Savage East, Rory, I think you're definitely right. The Savage East is in reference to Nora lands, and they tried to like bring the sun to them, but they're like, this is no place for the sun, because the Nora just kept pushing them back. And Sona is a big part of that too. She was very active during the Red Raids. Can you see any fast travel mechanisms other than campfires in the game? I think they're going to carry through with that. I'm just hoping that, talking about Ghost of Tsushima again, if we can start getting like around those fast travel times or faster, like, I would be thrilled. I would be flipping thrilled. Because you're just like, oh, I'm there. Oh, it's just so refreshing. Because as much as I love Horizon, oh my gosh, like firing it up on my PS4, like the fast travel times are just so slow. Now, like looking back, like back then you're like, oh, whatever, I'll just do something. Yeah. I wonder what other games that isn't HCD that you're a fan of. Like I said, big fan of Ghost of Tsushima. Play that game a lot. I've played all the Red Dead Redemptions, or I played Red Dead Revolver originally. Date myself a little bit. I would go rent Red Dead Revolver from Blockbuster and play it over the weekends until I beat it. Then I played Red Dead Redemption 2. Loved those games. I played a ton of Destiny 1. I was a big fan of that. yeah, and just across the board, love Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter World, Hammer, Hunting Horn main. So yeah, I just really like the game, and if I just want to zone out, maybe some Animal Crossing. 'Cause sometimes you just want to fish, you know? So you don't want to save the world. You just want to get a red snapper, cash in for 2,000 bells, and then you're good. What tribal areas do you think Forbidden West map will cover? Like we talked about, Sunfall to California is what you're talking about. So you're talking about like Utah to California. So you got a couple states in there that you could go through. And I did a video that kind of matches up to the best of my ability, just kind of speculating on what was very limited information at the time as to like what locations could be the ones they were pointing at in the Forbidden West data point. That was my first video on Forbidden West ever. So way before the sequel was announced, it was just about the data point. So I would say check out that video. It goes into like maybe like White Sands Desert, or like there's a whole bunch of them that we could see. Are you gonna have Forbidden West Let's Play? I am, and it's gonna be great. Do you know that Guerrilla have actually written the entire story arc? I don't know. I know that John Gonzalez was very much involved in the last game and this game, and I don't think he's involved in the third game. And that makes me very nervous, principally because he did such a great job. Not that the other people aren't up to the task. It's just whenever you're starting to shift narrative plot points, it's always like it helps to have one person like overseeing everything. I think that's like, I love Marvel as well. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Marvel's been so successful, because you have somebody like Kevin Feige just kind of overseeing everything. He doesn't like get in the way of people's creativity, but you're like, you got to hit these plot points so the stuff makes sense. So as long as Guerrilla has that, then I think we should be okay. I think we'll be all right. Just kind of like laying out, like maybe John came in and whoever the other principal writers are like, here, you know, we're not going to write the whole thing for you, but this is where the story's headed. If they have an outline to like an original conclusion, I would feel much better. Let's see here. What would create an arms race? So I had to. I don't think that was for me. Underwater cauldrons would be very awesome to explore, though I don't know how in-depth the water exploration will be. I think that is definitely possible, and the fact that I talked about a little bit in another stream where Guerrilla said that you're going to be able to breathe underwater essentially for an unlimited amount of time. So another game series that I've loved, and I've beaten both of them, is Subnautica. But man, early Subnautica is rough. It is rough because you're like going up for air, then you're going down for air, then you're going up for air, then you're going to go down for something. And then it's just, so if you can get rid of that bit of tediousness, because that's not the main goal, it's not just like a crafting survival game, then I think we're going to be in much better shape for the underwater stuff. Let's see. All right, Bob, thanks for stopping in there, man. Yeah, lore run for sure. Yes, I know. Patient Wolf does some great lore throughs on Horizon Zero Dawn, so be sure to check those out. They're pretty cool. But yeah, I'm gonna be going full bore into Forbidden West. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Let's see here. Do you think we'll start with the diving mask or have to make it? If we have to get to California, I bet we'll stumble upon it or have to make it. I don't think we'll just have it. We will have free climbing, so do you think we will be able to climb every skyscraper in the city and the mountains in the countdown? Yeah, probably not everyone, but I would say it's going to be a lot better diversity than what we had in the first game. Let's see, which ones did I miss up here? Do you think we'll get an explanation for the unknown signal that caused Gaia's subfunction to become self-aware? That is the question. We talked a little bit about it before. It's, man, I hope so, but I could totally see that being a revelation for the third game, because it is the revelation. So if they if they drop it in this one, it'll be interesting to see where the story goes next, because it's such a pivotal piece. Let's see here. You get the impression that They must have some kind of structure for the story already, since it's already pretty full of foreshadowing. Yeah, I really hope so. Golden, thank you so much. Appreciate you stopping by the stream. We got about 20 minutes left. I have been talking at you guys for almost 2 hours. That's nuts. You guys are amazing. I love digging into all the questions that you all have. So you haven't gotten them out yet, be sure that you get those questions firing out there. It's definitely something that I love talking about, and as much as I like to cover things in video form, the more that I can answer your questions in relatively real time, the better. Let's see, do you Horizon's lore and music is underrated, and by a lot of people it's amazing. Yeah, Toro, I think that is a really good point. Wouldn't be surprised if what if Silens triggered the signal, or at least fast over playing with the artifact he stole from the Banuk Conclave? Yeah, there's a whole within the background of Silens. We kind of assume that he's Banuk, but I think there's doubt to that in general, because I think he would go through the whole process, because what's being referred to here is when Silens was posing as a shaman for a Werek, I believe it's called Owl's Watch Werek, and he went to the Conclave, or in the Maelstrom, where they have all these like ancient machine artifacts, and then he just stole all of them. Yeah, there's a definite piece of that you know, he could have tinkered with something and then just messed something up beyond belief. So he could be trying to undo that because the world is ending, but once again, you have somebody who is all about could, not should. Like, can I do this? Is this possible? Opposed to, should I be going through with this? So that's a good point. Thank you, Mark. That is super kind of you. Much love to you as well. Let's see here. Silens got Hades a voice. Yeah, and he gave him a crazy voice. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is actually the head writer's voice. John Gonzalez, he voiced Hades, which is pretty cool. That's the dream, guys. Harsh loves the channel. Thank you. Very different type of Pharaoh robot. Would like to see like a different marine machine type. Yeah, they could absolutely. I'm not sure if it would be a chariot line machine, but there's a bunch of machines that they put out before the 3 models that we see in the game. So it could be like an earlier iteration of that. It could definitely happen. I think that Silens might have been Tanakh once. Perhaps that would be interesting. There's just, I mean, he's referred to by a lot of people as like the Dark Wanderer, and he's kind of this very, he's a very enigmatic figure. He doesn't tell a lot of people about himself, and I imagine we find out more about him too as well. Do I have a favorite tribe? I do. They are the Banuk, and that is eventually where I want to get a Banuk themed tattoo with all of my nerd tattoos. Just woke up. Hi. Hello. Good morning. At what point in the timeline did the signal affect Gaia? The signal affected Gaia, I want to say, either right before or during the reign of Sun King Jiran, because it was post signal that the derangement occurred, and at the beginning of his reign, Jiran was considered to be a very fair, reasonable leader, but then through the influence and like of his priests and just trying to figure out what was happening and trying to address it from a spiritual sense opposed to a technological sense, you start blaming this on a wrathful god, a wrathful sun god, and then you get the blood sacrifices, then you get the red raids. So you're talking about the reign of the 13th Sun King is when the derangement happened in the timeline. Hope that helps. RSQ, where is Pharaoh's bunker? Thebes. The bunker, I believe, is named Thebes. I don't think it's located in Thebes. And we don't know. Could be somewhere in Utah, but yeah, there's this man, I forget where I saw it. Somebody like hacked through the map underneath FAS, and there's like a door there. So that could have been the Pharaoh bunker. I'm not sure if that got abandoned or something like that, but there's definitely a door there, so that's interesting. RSQ, how do you think Ted got Omega clearance? We don't find that out during the game, but they did tell us during a Reddit AMA that essentially, since all the personnel that built Zero Dawn was funded by Pharaoh, one of the programmers installed that for him during that process. So without the knowledge of the alphas or anything else, it was done in secret. Thanks, Squirrel. I got Banuk jacket for Christmas. Fantastic tribe. Sushi chef, that is. I'm peanut butter and jealous. RSQ, I wonder why Minerva didn't defend Gaia when it was attacked by the signal. It could act as its cybersecurity module. Evidently, it just wasn't programmed for that. Or whatever did that was designed to work around it, or was part of the system all along, so it didn't see it as a threat. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Let's see here. What do you think is Hikaro? If it is indeed an actual piece of the game, and it's not a fabrication, either a subfunction or an AI. I think the all caps really speaks pretty definitively towards that designation. Nothing, to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing really else major that is referred to in the lore as being written that way besides subfunctions and AIs. RSQ, do you think there's like a big battle between the Raider and Aloy and Aaron and the Karja? That would be cool, because like lore-wise, right now they're kind of 1-1. Like the first time that we hear about the Tenakth and the Karja, the Tenakth were invading the Sundom, and they were repelled by the Sun King Renan, the Firebird. And then during the Red Raids, they tried to invade Tenakth territory, and the Tenakth clans like put aside all their differences and united and crushed the Karja. So it would be interesting to see kind of what a grudge match looks like there. Let's see. Happy to contribute. You have the only and best lore page for HDD. Thank you. Yeah, hey, the more eyes we can get on the lore, the better. I think that's the best. Appreciate you, Mark. A bit lame, but I would honestly love to see where and how Pharaoh built something as huge as a Horus, especially since it appears to be mass-produced and distributed to militaries all over the world. That's not lame. I think that'd be super cool. But, that's the kind of stuff I'm into. I'm like, tell me everything. Has anybody tried to find out the mysteries or the mysterious sounds in HZ? I had a commenter come around and tell me that there's some weird sounds. I have to just plug in Horizon again and just kind of let it play. Apparently there's like these weird voices that appear in Aletheia 9 if you turn the music down, and they're kind of eerie and weird. So I am going to try to look into that. That is going to be, we'll see what comes of it. Do you think Hades might return in Forbidden West DLC? I think he'll be, not to the degree that he was before. I think there are far different threats and more dire threats now than what Hades is kind of putting together. But I do think that he will absolutely have a role to play, at the very least at Silens' side, giving all kinds of new information. RSQ, when the Pharaoh Plague was going global, did robots essentially walk along the ocean's floor to reach new continents? That is the prevailing thought, because they kind of ate through the ocean as that happened. However, logistically, like dealing with ocean pressures and stuff would be nuts. We don't really get a ton of information. They went across land as much as possible. Like, there is like this whole, the way that they got to South America was actually like across Antarctica. They talk about that. So as much as they were able to go across land, that'd be the best. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Love that you love watching them. Do you think Aloy knows that Silens gave the Raiders the power to override machines? Aloy's going to be pissed and tell Aaron, and is going to wring Silens' neck. Yeah, Ron, I think once she sees it, I think it's going to be readily apparent what is happening there, because that knowledge is just not widely available. So you're like, I didn't teach them how to do that, so probably this other guy that I kind of know. Hades, Hephaestus, Demeter all still have functions/directives. What would the functions that have no goal in life do? Minerva, Aletheia, Apollo, and would AI do with their free time? That's a good question. We talk about like Demeter, she just, or it just refer to as she because I believe Demeter is the goddess of the harvest in Greek mythology. They switch it around sometimes. Most of them are Greek, but I think Minerva is Roman. But going off, I'm probably way wrong. But I think that obviously Apollo is just trying to figure out what it's all about because it's pretty busted up. I think Demeter is focused on seed germination. But as far as like Minerva and Eleuthia, like Eleuthia served its purpose. So yeah, I think it's basically just kind of in sleep mode, essentially. Let's see here. There's actually a song in Zero Dawn's soundtrack called A Storm in the West. They've been foreshadowing to a storm for a long time. If you watch the first ever, I think, reveal trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn, she's like, a storm's coming. You're like, oh, well, we should have guessed. You've been telling us this whole time, and now there is a very literal and powerful storm coming. They're all Greek. Minerva is the Roman name for Athena. Okay, cool. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. I was like, I know one of them's in the Roman pantheon. The sound is located at the frozen waterfall. Interesting. Minerva is... Oh, yeah. Now we're starting to appreciate you. Thank you. What do you think will happen if Apollo is restored? That's the big question. And I think that was a kind of thought process that was started going when in the Frozen Wilds... Save myself. In the Frozen Wilds where Aloy is talking with Cyan, and Cyan basically poses that question to Aloy, like, how do I deal with these people? Like, you know what I am, but these people have all manner of different ideas of what I am that they're putting on me. So, and Aloy, you can kind of decide what path to go down. Like, ease them into it, or just let them know, the whole thing's a lie. But yeah, you definitely you're gonna have societies that refuse to accept it. You're gonna have societies that fully embrace it. There's gonna be a lot of contention there, I would assume. I don't think it's just going to make peace and everything's good. It's very much like what happened with the Nora and the Karja. You have this piece of information that is very divisive to one side of people, and I think it's going to be a very divisive thing. Let's see here. Why are there like 125 people watching this and just 118 likes? Hey, I am happy for all the likes and all the views, so I'm just very happy that you guys are here asking questions. Do you think Silence did something to the Pharaoh focus he gave to Aloy after he rescued her in the Sun Ring? I totally think that's a possibility. I mean, he was looking through the focus the entire time that, after he discovered Aloy, and then he went through the backlog of everything that she'd seen before. You find that out when he talks about Isaac and his little big man. You're like, imagine if like everything that you've seen in your life was then just like made available to somebody without your consent, and you have to be like, that is wildly insane. So I could totally see Silence doing something like that. Let's see here. Do you think Apollo should be restored? Narratively, I think it'd be cheap, plus it'll incite crazy conflicts and an arms race and everything. That's kind of I wouldn't be surprised if that was a choice that was left to the player. Very much like giant spoilers ahead for Ghost of Tsushima. So if you don't want to hear it, well, you know what? Actually, if you play Ghost, it's like the end of Ghost. You have this pivotal choice to make, and you're just like, but you got to make that call. What you think is right. RSQ, do you think Silence is still watching? I think he's always watching. Always. And what kind of crossovers do you want to see in the future? Well, there's been some cool ones. I like the Monster Hunter one, even though I'm not a bow main, so that kind of was like, darn. And I know they did Genshin Impact. It'll never happen, but if they ever like reboot whatever the PlayStation version of Super Smash Bros. Is, I think she'd be a great character for that. Yeah, I think any of those would be really cool. RSQ, rogue subfunctions tend to self-preservation and keep to their directives at any cost, even if they are already complete. Do you think that a rogue Apollo would look like? Can Poseidon make a whale? I think Hades could definitely make a whale, and I think that through Hades, Poseidon could potentially have whale machines. But I think as far as like what a rogue Apollo would look like, that would be interesting. I just think Apollo, I think the infrastructure is there. It's just been separated from the archive. So I think it's fundamentally broken. And it's going to need something to take that place in order for it to do anything. So if it's a self-aware Apollo, I think it would probably like, it's going to be that friend who like unapologetically just wants to tell you factoids. It's going to be the most annoying subfunction Apollo's going to be. It's like, did you know this? It's like, you told me that, and even if I will let you know what I want to know, and it'll be good. And it's like, did you know the Earth is this many miles? Like, oh, I just don't want to hear it. You would love Mass Effect. I've heard that, and that's another one of those backlog ones that I should really play. That I own all the Uncharted games. I haven't played them. Please don't at me. I know they're great. There's so many good games. RSQ, what are your thoughts on the strike pieces or like the board games in Horizon Forbidden West? I'm excited. I talked about this at the very beginning of the stream. For me, after beating the game, Witcher quickly became Witcher 3, the Wild Gwent, and I would just like hop in there just to play Gwent. So if they come up with something that good, that I will just hop in and play that game. I think that would be super, super awesome. And I would love to see, if it's like a chess style game, I would love to see people like Grandmaster Hikaru like go in there and like try to chess it up with people. I think that'd be sweet. An Easter egg idea, an area that looks like a cauldron, but deeper you travel, it turns out to be an aperture science portal. Ooh, that would be rough. Don't want to run into GLaDOS down there. You already make a messenger in a glass bottle for Aloy in the future. Yeah, you should go ahead. Just throw it out there. Be like, Aloy, save us, please. Anyway, guys, we got about 5 minutes left on our 2-hour stream. I've appreciated all of this. You guys are always amazing. I'm always humbled and thrilled at how many people ask questions. So if you have any other thoughts or questions you want to get out, let's rock and roll. You'd also love Breath of the Wild. My 2 brain cells are dedicated to the lore, hoarding for HCD and Breath of the Wild, and share some eerily similar undertones. Yeah, I didn't play that game. I want to say the last Zelda game I played all the way through to completion was Wind Waker, if that gives you like an indication of how long ago it was. But I bet I would really love it. Let's see here. What do we got? Maybe Aloy and friends will meet people or someone else who also understands the focus technology. She won't necessarily need to rely on or be spied on by Silens. That would be pretty cool. There's not a lot of... We don't know of a ton of technologically advanced like societies out there in Forbidden West, but hey, we only know of 2. There's just so much. Thank you, Crazy. I had a great time too. What kind of system do you think they're going to have to control the machines? Because in the first game, they just kind of stood around and waited for someone to come by. I hope it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I hope at very least you have a follow function, right? Where they will leave their kind of designated area and then they can just kind of go with you. I think that would be a big step in the right direction. Will they add more trophies for the Hunters Guild, for the Hunters Lodge? Yeah, I would imagine so. I think that's a kind of good mechanic and a fun mechanic to kind of carry through for the games or the hunting grounds. So I would imagine that there's going to be more stuff like that. If you could have one wish for the next game, no matter how crazy or unlikely, what would that wish be? A 3rd and 4th game. There has been awesome. Oh, this has been awesome. I've got to bounce out early. Well, Rory, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Sweet. Thank you. You guys have been like for real. Like I know that our community is continuing to grow, and relatively speaking, like in YouTube terms, we're still a small channel, but man, you guys are just awesome. I wouldn't trade this community for any other ones that we are on YouTube. You guys are just so positive and awesome, and I just appreciate you guys stopping in and sharing the same love. with me and others about this great game. And the more eyes we can get on Forbidden West, I think the better. But yeah, you guys have been super, super awesome. And yeah, with that, I think we're gonna call it here. I will be doing these more often, leading up to it. I really like answering your guys' questions in real time, or just speculating with you, or hearing your really interesting points. So I appreciate everybody who stuck around for like the whole thing. You guys are, it's too much. It is humbling, and it was really, really great to talk to everybody. Thank you, Kirsty, Cake, Jonathan, Sweet, Rory, River. You guys are just, you're the best. And let's end it how we always end it. And as always, thanks for watching. Keep questing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.